But it is really good to see everybody. It has been a long, arduous year. Can you believe we are still in session? True story. Longest session in the history of the state. And nobody knows why we're still in session, but it is what it is. But thank all you guys for all that you do. Thank for all the support, the emails, the letters, the events, because I'm telling you that it means the world to all of us. In fact, I would credit you guys with us still having Terrence Everett, who is going to be running again this year. He'll be filing probably Monday. We've had a little upheaval with the courts. I don't know if you guys have paid attention to any of that, but Terrence talks about you guys all the time, and I am glad to have him running again, even though they did everything they could to make his district even harder. That means you did too good of a job, and so you're gonna have to do an even better job this time knocking doors for him. And since we are talking about the courts, I'm probably figuring everybody wants a little bit of an update to see what's going on. So what happened is the Court of Appeals, and actually, for those of you that are in law or anything like that, if you look at some of the shenanigans that went on with the way that they got the last case in front of the last appellate panel, and then what happened with this one, it's actually fascinating from a legal standpoint. But we had a 3-judge panel, which is normally what happens with the Court of Appeals, that heard the arguments, and then they made a decision. Well, not heard argument, but read the briefs, did all that, made a decision to pause the elections until the filing period, until they had a chance to view the information and hear everything together. What was different this time is that an emergency en banc hearing was called of all of the Court of Appeal judges. That has happened, to my knowledge, exactly one time ever where they have done that. Because usually, if you have the hearing of the full Court of Appeals, it's because somebody has asked for it, at least, that a decision has been made by the 3-judge panel. And so then what's supposed to happen is a lawyer for one side or the other is supposed to say, okay, guys, we weren't happy with the 3-judge panel, and instead of going with an appeal to the Supreme Court, we want to hear from the whole Court of Appeals before we make this decision. Well, the Court of Appeals decided on its own, wonder how that happened, that they figured out what the defense might want, wonder how they figured that out, and without any request from the defense, issued an order, no hearing, nothing in front of the public, nothing, no hearing. They just issued an order and said, we're overruling the 3-judge panel that just heard this case today. It was amazing to see that from a legal standpoint, and that's what we're up against. That's why courts matter, because I will not talk further about it, but I would just say, for those of you again who are in law, and for those of you who understand the judicial system and understand judges, that should not have happened. There's a lot of stuff that should have happened before that decision was overruled. So that's where we stand. Filing is back on. 2 appeals have been sent to the Supreme Court, a 600-page appeal and appellate brief, and a 900-page appellate brief for overruling these maps. And right now we're all waiting to see if the Supreme Court obviously will take up the matter, because as you remember, 2 years ago, they actually chose not to take up the maps. And then if they choose to take up the maps, then the question is, what will they do? Will they issue a stay? Will they go ahead and hear the case? We don't know. So all of us are waiting in limbo, but right now we're proceeding on as if these are going to be our maps, and if this is what we're going to be running on. And the good news is we got a lot of good candidates. It gets tougher and tougher every year, I can tell you. And we've had a crack recruiting team. I don't mind telling you, Ashton Clemens, Vernetta Alston, patience our own Vernetta Alston, and John Autry have worked and worked and worked and worked to talk to candidates, to give them information and try to get them ready to run. And so we've got a good slate of candidates. We're pretty happy with those. And really a good spectrum of candidates. And when I say spectrum of candidates, not just talking about diversity. Of course, we're going to have diversity because we're Democrats, but beyond the diversity in the sense of different types of people from different walks of life, because a lot of you have seen, we've had a lot of people retire or choose not to run again in the House. And the same thing in the Senate too. I was just talking to Leader Blue, and he was talking about having the same issue. But unlike the Senate, one of the number one problems that when I talk to people who are serving in the House is they just can't keep the time commitment. You know, being in all year. I mean, we've built a General Assembly, and especially in the House, and candidly, I think it's purposefully, that a regular working person just can't do it. I mean, if you imagine, this is supposed to be a job that takes 9 months out of every 24. And we have been in for 12 months just in this long session. We haven't even gotten to the short session yet. But this is supposed to take 6 months in the long year, 3 months in the short session, and that's it. And so that's something that allows working people to go. You're supposed to have some type of semblance of a schedule and all that type of thing, and we just don't have it. We don't know when we're going to have session, when we're not going to have session. We actually just had some correspondence today saying, hey, we know that Friday is an option for session, but we want to make sure we're not having session. Well, we don't think we'll have session, but we'll see. And of course, today is Tuesday, so how easy is that for people to make plans if they work, they have families? We've got people who haven't been able to take vacations with their families this year. I mean, it's just been really particularly onerous. And like I said, the House has been worse than the Senate. Is the sad part, because even those that have gone to the Senate from the House say, well, at least we know we're only going to be in there a couple hours, and we're going to be out by 6:30 no matter what. So that's one of the many things we need to have changed by flipping the majority in the General Assembly, is making it so that everybody can be represented in General Assembly, and not just people who can afford either not to work or not take any work, or not take off time from work. So that is what we're looking like. And I will tell you guys that we are looking forward to working with you again this year. 2016, we didn't really have you. 2018, we had you and we won a bunch of seats. 2020, COVID knocked out a lot of what you guys love to do, and we lost some seats. So I think that is clear what the actual correspondence is. So that means 2022, we're all going to be out knocking doors. We're going to go out calling. We're going to do everything we can to get folks elected so that we can have some really fun meetings. I know you guys are going to have fun tonight, but we can have some really fun meetings once we flip that majority and we start talking about some things that really matter. And I will give you an update too on the budget. I know that was a big question for a lot of people. As you know, Governor Cooper decided to sign the budget this year. And I think the number one issue in his mind was that we've had 4 years with no budget. And you just got a lot of money that was just being held hostage during this time. And so we didn't get everything we wanted. We came incredibly close to Medicaid expansion. I was, as you know, I was involved in a lot of the discussions this year, and I would just tell you that we were incredibly close to Medicaid expansion this year. And I think that had some things been slightly different, we would have had Medicaid expansion. We would not be looking at these huge corporate tax cuts that are looking at gutting somewhere between 70 and 80 billion dollars out of our budget over the next 10 years. We wouldn't be looking at the limiting of the governor's powers. You know, that was a tough thing for him to sign, putting those limitations, because based on what the new law is under the budget, he gets 60 days to do whatever he's got to do, which works for hurricanes and all that type of stuff. After 60 days, he has to clear it with the Council of State. So after 60 days, had this been in place when the pandemic started, think about that. That would have put us in May of 2020. And Mark Robinson would have been deciding every 30 days whether or not we needed to have shutdowns, mask mandates, and all that type of thing. And just imagine what world we'd be living in right now. There were some great stats that were presented about Georgia as compared to us. And, you know, Georgia is similarly sized, a similar situation. And Georgia, I think, ended up with about 100,000 more deaths.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was something insane. And I don't know the exact number, so please look that up. But the point being, we know that Cooper managed this well. And we know that Cooper did a good job. And with that, we've got to do what we can to try to make sure that his last 2 years, he's able to continue to be successful and we don't end up in a super minority, which of course is a risk with these maps. And that will be my final subject, is to talk to you a little bit about the maps. based on what they've drawn, in my opinion, we're looking at a situation where obviously we can't get a majority off of the maps the way they're drawn this year. I don't see a flip unless there's an actual wave. And of course, there's a chance for a wave because, as you know, the United States Supreme Court is going to be making some decisions over the next couple of months that may make some people who have sat on the sidelines finally decide that, we might want to get involved in this democracy thing. They might want to get involved in voting in government. So that may change things. But without that being said, I do think we've got a chance to gain some seats. No issue about that. But the majority is going to be tough. But what I will tell you is that they have made these seats as competitive as possible this time around. They had to create a competitive seat in Wake County. As you know, Wake County does not naturally follow that. So if you look again at Terrence Everett's district, it stretches like all the way across the north. It looks like one of those congressional districts where it's just a long snake, but they're trying their best to see what they can to get that seat won. We know we've got Terrence, so that's our secret weapon, so we're not worried about losing the seat, but those are the type of things they've done all across. Now you look at Raymond Smith in Wayne County, they kind of did the same thing where it's a tortured drawing of that district. And in fact, and I'm sure because, nobody looked at any partisan data, nobody looked at any racial data. I want to make sure that's clear because that's what we were told every day. Coincidentally, out of the 11 seats that got tougher in the General Assembly, 8 of those were seats occupied by people of color. Out of the 4 seats that got tougher in the Senate, all 4 of those were African American seats. And so those are the kind of things that we were looking at. And like I said, I'm sure they're correct that they didn't look at anything and it just so happened that those seats fell like that. But that was an interesting turn. At the same time, they're sending out fundraising emails saying, look at the diversity that we're promoting and how we've grown as a caucus, because we have 4 people of color that'll be running for office as Republicans next year. That's a real tweet and email. So proud of them for their diversity, 4 out of 69 in the House. I think that's amazing work, and that's it. And of course, they did not tout the fact that they have any women yet, because of course, as you guys know, there's a dearth of women on that side of the aisle also. But that's what we're looking forward to, and that's what we've got to stop in 2022. So again, the biggest thing I want to do is tell you guys thank you. You don't know how much it means for us to get to talk to you guys, to be around you, to have your support, because ultimately what it does is it reminds all of us that we're not crazy, that there's actually a world out here that believes like we believe, that thinks like we think, that understands like we understand. But it is a really frightening place to be in government right now, because when you look up and you see, what Madison Cawthorn did in a congressional race, and that's a real thing. He had a chance to tell the second most powerful person in the state that he wanted his district, and he took it. You look at Mark Robinson, who has said bad thing after bad thing, and not one person on the Republican side jumping up to say, this might be getting a little out of hand. These are not the things that we stand for. And I don't know how many of you saw the tweet from Julie Mayfield, but Senator Julie Mayfield gave a really eloquent speech on the Senate floor, not confrontational, not problematic. In fact, the gist of her speech was, when you get elected to office, you represent everybody. You don't get to choose the people that you represent everybody that is in your district, in your state. And what she got for that was the lieutenant governor taking her out in the hall and yelling and screaming at her. What got put on Twitter was only a part of that, but it was scary for the folks that watched it, because he's yelling, he's screaming. But what did get caught on Twitter is him basically telling her that next time she wants to talk on the floor, she needs to come see him. And I remember not too long ago when folks like that were considered the extremes. They were the outsiders, and now they're the ones that are running that party. And so keep that in mind, talk to folks, get them out, double the size of your organization, even though that's going to be kind of hard considering the fact that you guys have grown exponentially. I mean, yeah, I know you were talking about Susan having a 5-year anniversary. I don't know that you can't fit everybody in a place anymore. You'd have to have a double. Yeah, so have shifts. But you guys have really been amazing. Your work means more in my mind than the work that we do. Getting elected and serving is one thing, but being out here in the trenches, making sure people stay involved, is tough. I mean, it's hard. We're asking for votes because we're the ones getting elected. You guys are asking for votes because you care about this state and you care about this community and you care about this country. So please keep up that good work. Obviously, anytime I can ever be of assistance, please let me know. And I just love having you guys. It's good having you on the team.
We love you, Representative Reives.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you so much, Representative Reives. I mean, with all due respect, you're working way harder than any of us combined, and we are super, super grateful to you, and we just need you to keep on going. So thank you so much. We are with you 100% in 2022. You can count on us, and we will do our best to build our troops and knock as many doors as we can. So thank you. And I'm sure we'll talk to you much more in 2022 and have lots of questions for you then.
Absolutely. Anytime you guys want to have me. And again, before I leave, again, I'm losing patience. So not losing patience with you, losing patience, Vanderbush. so when I get off this call, all of you make her feel guilty about not moving to Asheboro. Tell her we can get her a place at the zoo. We can do all kinds of things. We just need her in Randolph County. But you guys take care. We'll see you later. Can't wait to see you guys again. If I don't talk to some of you, have a wonderful Christmas and have a happy holiday and enjoy. We'll see you.
You
Bye.
too. Thank you so much. And thank you for coming to talk to us tonight. We really appreciate it.